Welcome back. It is Friday, about to land the plane, and as we enter into the weekend, go ahead and begin to read Mark chapter 15. We will be back on Monday, and we will continue forward in the Gospel of Mark. I hope you're being challenged every day to read the Bible, zero excuse, and I hope you've seen this week in Mark chapter 14, our 50 feet can be a big mess. We have to deal with criticisms. We have to deal with interruptions. We have to deal with angry people. And we just need to know that in all of our 50 feet, God is wanting to use us. Why? Because He's interceding for us. He's praying for us, and He wants to use us. He wants to put His Spirit in us to be the light of the world and the salt of the earth. Let's just land the plane today. Man, it is going to be a good thought for us. And it goes all the way down in verse 30 and 31 of Mark chapter 14. Jesus replied, "I tell you the truth, Peter. This very night, before the rooster crows twice, you will deny me 3 times that you even know me." "No," Peter declared emphatically. "Even if I have to die with you, I will never deny you." And all of the others vowed the same. Now, all the way at the very bottom, listen to the final verse. Verse 72. "And immediately the rooster crowed the second time. And suddenly Jesus' words flashed through Peter's mind. 'Before the rooster crows twice, you will deny me 3 times that you even know me.' And he broke down and wept." I know what that feeling feels like, because in 2010, I did the same thing Peter did. I saluted God and said, "You can count on me. I will never, ever, ever." Because my faith was God could count on me. I loved Him so much, if there was one thing God could do, He could count on me to be faithful. I literally saluted God like a soldier and said, "God, I will never, ever, ever." And then I found myself less than 42 days later, the very thing I said never, never, never to, I found myself doing it. It was a royal disaster for about 7 months of my life. And then as I came through that time, I went and asked God, "Man, what happened? Because I love you so much." I was reading my Bible every day, right? Zero excuse. And even in the middle of that, I had one of my worst moments of failure. I loved God with my whole heart and was passionate about Him. I was telling people about Him. I was preaching Jesus, and still had one of the worst crashes I've ever had in my life. To disappoint God, to let God down, to have made a promise to God, to have made a promise to my wife, to people, to my friends, and yet in a moment of crisis, let every one of them down. The reality that I learned was this. I learned, like Peter, he said, "I will never, ever, ever deny you." And Jesus said, "Yes, you will." Peter said, "No, I won't." And then I realized something about Peter. He genuinely meant it. He genuinely, from the bottom of his heart, meant, "I will never, ever deny you." But what he forgot was that all of us are mere humans. And all of us, even on our best day, with our best effort, with our best foot forward, at any given moment, can jump off the bandwagon and become a royal disaster. Because after Peter said, "You can count on me, Jesus, I will never deny you," by verse 72, the rooster crows, and the Bible says Peter remembered what Jesus said, and he wept bitterly. Think about this. What is the lesson that we can learn today? The lesson that we can learn today is how silly we are to think that we as a human can say, "I will never." Because the moment we say, "I will never," we put all the pressure on our ability. "I will never do that again." Most of us have probably already said that multiple times, and we failed the same amount of times. Maybe guys, "I will never look at porn again." 4 days later, they're caught right back in the same trap. "I will never do that habit again." And then 2 weeks later, they're caught right back in the same habit. We call it New Year's resolutions. We're already into March. It makes me wonder how many resolutions we've really lived up to. Why? Because we're humans. But this is the hope of the moment. The hope of the moment is not that Jesus was right. He is the Son of God. He was telling the truth to Peter. The hope of the moment is not Peter really meant it. "I won't deny you." The hope of the moment is in a rooster, because that's what gives us hope. And you think the thing that crowed, the rooster, would be the thing that robbed Peter of hope, because that's how the story goes. Immediately when the rooster crowed, Peter realized, dude, I'm a failure. And so the rooster has one of two options. It either reminds me that I'm an utter failure, or it reminds me of the mercy of God. I believe Jesus picked a rooster intentionally. Why? Because a rooster crows every morning. So every morning when you wake up, you hear, it's the best rooster I got. And it reminds me, I'm just a failure. But if you really want to know what Jesus was doing, because he's for you and not against you, he was connecting us back to the Lamentations of Jeremiah. Lamentations chapter 3, verse 23. The steadfast love of the Lord is new every morning. His mercies never come to an end. That's powerful. You see, every time the rooster crows, it was not, you're a failure. Every time the rooster crowed, it was, I'm a God of mercy. That's what I want you to think about today. You can sit around and think about all your disastrous failures, or you can say, he's a God of mercy. You see, your worst failure, when a rooster crows, reminds you of how sorry you really are. You don't ever measure up, and God doesn't like you. But when the rooster crows, rather than looking at your failure, look at his mercy. Now I can look back nearly 10 years at one of the worst moments, if not the worst moment of my life. Something that when the rooster crowed, I felt so guilty, so unworthy, so dirty, so hopeless. But 10 years later, I look back now, and when the rooster crows and I have that memory, when the rooster crows and I have that thought of that moment, now rather than focusing on how terribly sorry I was, and maybe there's no hope for me, I look now to the mercy of God. And I say, God, thank you for mercy. That's what I want to leave you with today. It's Friday. I don't know what you're facing. I don't know if you're like me and you've had one of your worst royal failures ever. I want to give you some hope. Every time the rooster crows, I want you to remember he's a God of faithfulness and mercy. He will never let you down. And because of Jesus Christ, he holds nothing against you. And if he is for you, who can be against you? That ought to give you great hope today. I bless you as you go into the weekend. Remember our prayer. Pray it and watch what God will do. If you can use anything, Lord, you can use me. And if anyone comes across my path today that needs you, may I ever be so bold to lead them to you. I bless you. I'll see you Monday.